After today, I hope you understand the two important stages of designing a logo so that you have a greater appreciation of the symbols you interact with on a day-to-day basis. Right now, I want you to think of a logo, any logo. Now keep that in your mind until the end of this vlog. Now, the first step in the logo design process is research. Before we begin explaining this step, we have to know what a logo is. According to Adir, a graphic design expert, he describes a logo as a symbol that represents the communication structure of a company. When a designer is designing a logo for a company, they have to do research on other companies and compare the designs. They don't want to be too similar to those designs, but they may want to look at the successful components of those designs and incorporate them into their own design. Think about fast food chains. A lot of them display a bright red, which gets people's attention when they're driving. So if a designer was tasked with designing a logo for a fast food chain, they may think to add that bright red in. When designing a logo, designers also have to come up with a theme for that logo. This can be done by thinking of the company as a person. How would that person be described in adjectives? Classic or more modern? Playful or more mature? In an informative video documenting the design process by a firm known as Navy Blue, the company was tasked with coming up for a design for a computer animation company. The company wanted to highlight their more futuristic approaches that they have been working on, so theme played a very important role in this development for this particular logo. Think about the Apple and Samsung logos. They're both very simple logos, but at the same time, they're very mature. They have similar attributes to each other because they both are technology brands. However, they're very different in their design. This is important to note because if Samsung had a pear logo, it'd be confusing to the public. It's important to come up with designs that are similar to other brands in that field, but are also unique on their own. When designing a logo, a designer must also think about where that logo will be used. For instance, if a logo is going to be used on a big billboard, it has more room to be more complicated in design. However, if it's going to be at the corner of a website or a brochure, that logo has to be very simple. The smaller that logo becomes, the more pixelated a complicated design becomes as well. This was seen in the Navy Blue design process. They had to make sure the logo was very simplistic in design because their logo would be used at the corner of a lot of brochures. Now on to the second stage of logo design. The second stage of logo design involves actually designing the graphic. A process known as form storming is often used by graphic designers to help them narrow down their ideas for a logo. This process involves creating a chart of sometimes 100 little boxes and then having the designers sketch their ideas for a particular logo project in each box. This helps them decide which logos they like the best and then develop those ideas further. In a study completed by researchers at a university in Amsterdam in 2015, logos at varying levels of complexity were studied for their effectiveness. The study was completed by taking people aside and showing them a slideshow of different logos for differing amounts of time. After this, they were shown the logos again, and they had to say whether or not they remember seeing that logo before. The reaction time was also noted. It was shown that people who were exposed to the brand logos once were slower at reacting to the logos they had seen before than the people who were shown the logos multiple times. Researchers also found that simpler logos were more easily recognized than more complex logos. In addition, exposure time didn't play a role in the simple logos and how memorable they were. So this shows that a logo that's more simple in nature is much more effective. Color also plays a huge role in the logo design process and how effective that logo is. Going back to the fast food example, a designer working for a fast food restaurant may want to pick colors opposite to each other on the color wheel so that there's more contrast and people will be attracted to that restaurant when they're driving. However, a computer company, such as the company that Navy Blue was tasked with designing the logo for, may want something more sophisticated in nature. Once all the graphic principles are put together, vector images must be created for the logo. Vector images are made in Adobe Illustrator, which is usually the standard for designers in the field. From here, they are then shown to their colleagues and critiqued. After making any last-minute changes, the final logo design files are created. They'll make multiple types of files, including PNGs with transparent backgrounds, high-resolution photos for the web, and layered source vector files. It's very important to equip the company with many different versions of the logo so that they can use them in different scenarios. With this being said, designers will also equip the company with different color variations of the logo, such as black and white. So, now that you know the 2 stages of creating and designing a logo, I hope you have a greater understanding of the process it takes to design the symbols you interact with on a day-to-day basis. So now, I want you to think back to the logo you thought of at the beginning of this video. Why do you think you thought of that logo? Was it its sleek design? Its theme perhaps? The color scheme? Did you know how complicated the design process was for that little symbol you thought of? Was it more complicated than you thought?